Reverend Allison helped us visualize all ages of our congregation as a growing garden. And you were glorious. You were a place of growth, interdependence, and wonder. And I'm going to tell you first about another garden. And this one is in my backyard. There are the seeds and the flowers, grasses, shrubs, and trees. But the biggest tree on the other side of the fence, it's not there anymore. Our neighbors cut it down last fall, and we miss that big silver maple. We have another tree, a sugar maple, that was tucked underneath that towering silver. And now it kind of has a unique shape because it grew around and underneath the silver. Our neighbors, tree cutters, looked at it and offered to take it down as well. No, thank you. We look forward to seeing how it will grow, to continue to enjoy its orange and yellow leaves every fall. That is in one corner. We also have a groundhog living in another corner, who nibbles adorably, I might add, all of our hostas, which are looking less hosta-like by the day. And there are so many rabbits. They're so cute, and they love phlox. Our phlox may not bloom this year due to all of the nibbling. I've noticed, though, that the rabbits don't eat all the flowers. They avoid the daffodils. So through these changes, I still love my backyard. I'm grateful for it, and I do enjoy seeing the little critters. I would love to spend more time there, but I have a lot on my plate these days. And I'm just going to need to adjust my expectations, adapt my vision, and right-size my projects for my backyard. I can't garden all the time, but I might plant more daffodils in the fall. In our congregational garden, we have plants and we have gardeners. And over the course of our lives, we will switch between the roles more than once. Sometimes there are those in our community, as there are in a garden, who need a little extra tending. We live in a world and in a time that needs so much tending, don't we? We are tending to the needs of those around us and all the things filling up our lives. We're tending to our nervous systems, trying to, as we react to the bombardment of the news affecting us. We wonder, what is the next right thing? This is the reality for so many. And for our families raising children, the ways they can participate on Sundays is not the same as it was 20, 30, or 50 years ago, or even 6 years ago. In my time here in the last 8 years, we've gone through a few iterations of what families and children were able to do as a whole. And the pandemic did have a lot to do with it. I want to share with you some trends that we see in our church, as well as churches around the country. We have some families who come every Sunday. But more often, we have families who come once or twice a month, and some even less. When we led Coming of Age Ago, which is a program for our high schoolers, we had 5 youth in the program. And all 5 were never able to be there at the same time all year until our final rehearsal and our service in June. It was in May. And for our most recent 7th and 8th grade Our Whole Lives program, we just finished it on Friday night, we didn't have a session where we had all 8 until the second to last session. Life happens. Illness happens. Everything is a lot right now for our children and families. And I want our families to know that it's okay. And as an educator, I know that when we offer gatherings, we want to hold that moment as something that is a container for that time together. We're not trying not to build on curriculums that focus on week to week, because we know that's not realistic for our program and our people's lives. It worked in the past, but it doesn't work now. Parents and caregivers are stressed, overwhelmed, and increasingly burned out. In July of last year, the Surgeon General called it a public health concern. In a paper, Parents Under Pressure, the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory on the mental health and well-being of parents. It's not a short read, and it's pretty heavy. And it doesn't even cover 2025. So how are we adapting to these trends and this knowledge? It looks like offering supportive programs for our parents with free childcare. We were hoping to have one tonight, but I know our people are so busy that we are going to postpone it to another time. It looks like acknowledging how little time our volunteers have to prepare a lesson adapted from our existing curriculum. This is a model that did work in the past, but it's not a reality that I see our volunteers looking for or offering, and that's okay. A few years ago, we started our Workshop Choices model, where we prepare an engaging activity or project that we offer 2 Sundays in a row. Our volunteers offer a supportive activity that they can engage with our children that they only have to prepare once. If a large number of our children don't attend 2 weeks in a row, repeating an engaging activity offers a chance for more of our children to participate. I've recently heard this called working smarter, not harder. It looks like moving our program preparation to Zoom sessions, conversations after church, phone calls, or texting. That's how we touch base. I'm not hosting as many in-person meetings because everyone's schedules don't overlap as much. Not all parents can volunteer, and that's okay. For some who do, it fills their cup and offers a rewarding connection, a connection with their faith and with the delightful children and youth in our care, in our community. We have volunteers who can offer the continuity of 2 Sundays in a row once a month. So that means they're present for almost all of our workshop days. We have others who help once a month for our learning chapels, or a few times a year, or as a backup substitute. Of our regular volunteers, many are actively parenting children or teens at home, but not all. We have volunteers who are not parents, and those whose children have grown. I am grateful for this mix. We hope to continue to grow our pool of those who want to work with children and youth. I will be staying after the service today to invite anyone who has questions or is curious, would like to learn more about what this might look like for our congregation and for you. And we can just gather in the front. This is the time of year where I'm looking to line up who my gardeners are for next season. So yes, we have a congregational garden, and we need to continue to adapt and adjust to the changes in our environment. And we know a little bit about that. For faith formation for our children and teens did not look the same as it did in this past year. Neither did our worship services, because we didn't have the same space. For the past few years, I would have 3 different rooms, 3 different workshops that our children could choose from. And here at Riviere, we gratefully have 1 classroom for elementary, 1 for childcare, and 1 lobby for our teens and tweens. So we adapted. With our collaborative team of volunteers, we were open to trying something new. So we gathered in our 1 long, big room together upstairs, and it's working. Our volunteers liked it more, and our children that said that they liked it better as well. It feels more like a community when we're learning to act out our values together, practice what it means to be welcoming to everyone, Sometimes we can have 15 or 23 children up there, and they're all working on the same collaborative coloring puzzle, which I love to take pictures of, and I'll share with you later. This is not in order, and that's okay. I believe I'll just start at this part. During our children's chapel time, which we hold once a month in that same room, I work with volunteers and worship associates to offer a service that mirrors the elements of what we do on a Sunday service down here. There's just a little bit more interaction and conversation for everyone. And sometimes when we're sharing, we'll go around the circle and share our joys and sorrows. And sometimes they have a common theme. Sometimes we have a lot of birthday parties that we hear about, or sleepovers. And recently, the common thread was talking about death. There were concerns about a pet dying. There was remembering a pet who died. There was remembering grandparents who died. And we talked about what it means when someone in our congregation is in hospice care. This was not my planned topic for the morning. But I talked with them about lifetimes and death, and how we can share the stories of our loved ones who have died, and we keep their memories in our heart. And that was faith formation that morning. We let our children know that they are part of this community where they can talk about this. They can support each other if we feel sad about death. And this is what we did 2 weeks ago. This kind of emergent faith formation can feel messy, unpredictable, and beautiful. And I'm going to switch to my iPad, so we have the right order. And as I'm looking for that, these are conversations that I also help parents with. So I am just thinking of a story where we had talked about this, about death with children in chapel, and then I had lent a resource home to a family. They were reading a book about Jesus, and then wondered, is it okay if I share this story? Thanks. And then in the story, it talks about Jesus' death. And there were some questions about that. And what do you think happened? And the young elementary student said, I think he lives on in his mother's heart. Right? I'm glad I got a chance to mess up my order and tell that story. All right. Yeah, take a breath. All right. This model of faith formation is also following another trend that's called decentering curriculum, focusing less on the content of a series of lesson plans and more on relationship and community connection and living out our values together. While there are still some curriculum that we work with for sure, such as our comprehensive sexuality education program that we offer to a lot of different ages, those are opt-in programs, and they mainly take place outside of our Sunday morning programming. So what we offer here is our first Sunday we have our Children's Learning Chapel, and our teens are welcome to help in there, but increasingly they've chosen to stay in here with you. And then we have our next 2 Sundays with Workshop Choices Sundays, where we're all together. And then we close the month on when there's 4 Sundays with our all ages engage in worship in here. And when we have one of those 5 Sundays in the month, that's when we really switch it up. And we give everyone a chance to attend faith formation workshops, even all of you. So all month long, the congregation is the curriculum. In the words of religious educator Connie Goodbread, faith formation is all we do. Unitarian Universalism is all we teach, and the congregation is the curriculum. What does this mean, the congregation is the curriculum? It means we're raising Unitarian Universalists and we're learning how to be in community together. We're learning what it means to be part of a Unitarian Universalist congregation by being in one and experiencing it, and experiencing the ministry of that church. One of the ways we think about how we do that is how can we do this for each age group? So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those ages and tell you a little bit about Jen Shattuck. She's a religious educator in our faith who works part-time at some churches working with young children. And she spends another large portion of her time writing lessons, research papers, books, and videos about faith formation for Unitarian Universalists and their families. And for her work, I am grateful. If you ever follow the Instagram page, Ellery, the church mouse, it's this little felted church mouse that we followed all through the pandemic online. That's her work. So she and another colleague of mine who's been doing this work for a while, Reverend Sierra Marie Garfeo, last year they led a workshop that blew my mind. It was called Coming of Age, a New Framework of Love. And when a lot of us say coming of age in our congregations, we're talking specifically about our teens and a program that kind of mirrors a bar mitzvah or a confirmation, a milestone for our teens. And we have a year-long program. We'll be offering it again this coming year. And in this workshop, she talks about really the coming of age, raising Unitarian Universalists starts with the very young ones. So I want to talk with you a little bit about the stages of faith formation and how we want to be intentional all the way through, not just in that one teen year. So we start in the nesting phase. Okay, so we have a garden. I'm really into that metaphor, but we're just going to have some birds flying. And so now we've got some birds adding to the metaphor. So we start with the nesting phase, this phase for young children. We look that we are not just resourcing and supporting young children to know that this is a place where they are cared about and loved. We're doing that. And I love that our little ones like to come to church. Many ask, is it a church day? What we're doing is we're resourcing, what we want to do, is resource the adults and the older children to help create that nest where they can feel safe. And our congregation makes that promise when we have our child dedications, don't we? I could go on and on about all of this, but we're going to jump to the next stage. This is the fledgling stage, where the little ones are getting ready to learn to fly, they're falling around, and they are just soaking up information. Our little ones are eager to learn and try new things and be active participants in the community. This is the participation years, as Jen calls it. We do this by opening the Wonder Box and doing lighting the chalice, having our bake sale. Jen includes the high five of Unitarian Universalist congregational life, and she hopes to help engage children in each one of them. So there's hospitality, worship, justice making, community care, and spiritual growth. That's the high five. And I feel like we incorporate all of those in some way into our program, and I'm looking to do that more. And later in the presentation, Sierra Marie talks about when the birds start flocking together and flying. And this is a metaphor for our teens. It's a time of looking for social connection and a sense of belonging. In our games program for teens, where they gather around a game of church categories, where they try to come up with how many people in the church have the name that begins with the letter T. And they know a lot of you. It's a time of building that sense of belonging. And we also started doing role-playing, like D&D type games for them this year, and that was such a hit. We plan to continue more next year. And as the birds begin to fly, they're searching for trustworthy authorities and trustworthy communities. They notice hypocrites. They notice inconsistencies. I'm not calling any of you that. I'm just saying that that is like a stage that they're at. Right, okay. And this could be a whole other sermon for another time or workshops. But I'm here and I want you to know I care about all of you. So faith formation at UU Nashua is really for all ages, even if I didn't go through all of them. My work with all of you is across the lifespans. And there are times when we gather all together, like we did earlier, showing that garden. We have other times when we may gather in smaller cohorts or life stages, or those who we share a similar identity or role. We have our caregiver support group for those caring for elders and loved ones. We have parenting support groups. We have our elderberries who gather for socials. So we can think about, like in our garden, sometimes you water the same flowers at the same time, or you tap all the maple trees at the same time, but you don't tap the daffodils. So here we are. Yeah, I that was an aside to myself, to all of you. Yeah, so we're not going to garden in the same way to all the different parts. We're not going to do the same kind of faith formation programming for every one of us. There are times when we're together, and then there are times when we're in our groups supporting each other and their own needs. Faith formation is ministry. It's a time for everyone to wonder. It's a time for everyone to lift up our values and make connections with what brings us strength. Spiritual tending can certainly be an individual journey, but it's also a communal one. And it may mean painting our fingernails in solidarity.